Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Commando Clash podcast. This week, we are doing a Magus tier list. So, way back in Time Spiral block, there was a new cycle of creatures called the Magus cycle. And all of these are essentially creature versions that are mimicking old, very, very old classic non-creature cards in Magic the Gathering. For example, there's a Magus of the Moat, which is essentially doing the same thing as a very old card called Moat, which is an enchantment. Or there's Magus of the Scroll, which is mimicking a old artifact called Scroll Rack, and so on and so on. So they're all very different, and they all fit in very different decks, but we thought it'd be kind of cool to kind of just put them all in a tier list and see which ones is the best, which one's the most Magus of them all, which ones are going to be good, maybe some hidden gems amongst the Magus. I don't know how you say the plural. Magus is, maybe it's just Magus. Maybe Magus is plural. I don't know. But joining me for this grand debate is Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive. How's it going, Seth?
I am doing great, Domer. How are you? Good to see you. Hopefully everyone had a happy New Year's.
I'm doing all right. My voice is pretty shot. I had a great New Year's, and hence my voice is pretty shot. Hope everybody had happy holidays as well. We all had a little vacation as well, so we're all back in action today. And a little frazzled
with no voices, but otherwise good to go.
Yeah, Seth, your voice sounds mighty chipper, but
I'm doing all right. Yeah,
I'm hearing a gravelly, raspy voice in the background, and that's the Asian Avenger, aka Krim. How's it going, Krim?
Yo, I also had a very fun Christmas and New Year's. As you can tell, I'm still congested. I was sick for almost all of it. So, yeah, there's that.
Fun. Well, I hope you had some time to relax and everything, and hope the fireworks didn't spook the boys too much. The corgi children.
They definitely did.
Give them extra hugs for me.
I'll do that. Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Yay. All right. And then also somewhat sick, but feeling better, hopefully soon, is Phil, like Brew's Kitchen. Yep. How's it going?
Also sick. Also spent New Year's in bed, but at least CubeCraft was live, so that's a silver lining, I guess. But I'm feeling better. Like today is the first day I feel better, and I should be fine soon. It's wild. I was like sick 3 times last year, and 2 times were both in December. So, man, this has to change.
It's a bad month for Phil. Apparently.
Yeah. Well, I know what would make you feel better, Phil, and that's talking about all the Maguses and Magic the Gathering and rating them in a tier list. But before we do that,
subscribe.
Exactly. It's like chicken soup for the magic nerd.
Yeah.
Chicken noodle soup for the soul.
Yes. Yes. Except Magus is the chicken noodle soup for the magic. I don't know.
Yeah.
Magus is the chicken noodle soup. I need that. Anyway, before we jump into all these sweet Maguses, a quick reminder, you can support the channel a couple different ways. The first way is you can like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. And then the other way you can support the channel is you can head on over to our merch store, mtggoldfishmerch.com. You can buy deck boxes, deck sleeves, t-shirts, and so much more over at mtggoldfishmerch.com. All right, with that out of the way, there are 21 Maguses. There's actually one extra one, Magus of the Unseen, but it's not a reference to any older card. It was actually the first Magus ever printed. And then way later in Time Spiral, they actually did Maguses as a reference to other ones. So we're ignoring that one. Ignoring that one, it's 21 Maguses. Some of them are doo-doo. We want to talk about the good ones, though. Yeah. It's unseen. It's that hidden bonus. I know if I didn't mention it, somebody in the comment section would be like, actually, I didn't cover all the Maguses. I'm like, chill, all right, we covered it. Quick shout out. But let's get all the bad ones out of the way. Seth, can you tell us a little about the ones that we ranked pretty low on the tier ranking? They're all like C's or D's.
Yeah. So as Tomer said, there's 21 Maguses that are part of this like mega cycle or whatever it is altogether. I think almost half of them we have a consensus rank of either D or C. So we got 3 consensus Ds, which literally everyone gave Ds except there's 1 C thrown in, which is Magus of the Arena, Magus of the Bridge, and Magus of the Scroll. So Magus of the Arena references the card Arena. It's a 6-drop 5/5 that you can pay 3 and tap a creature, and that creature fights one of your opponent's creatures. That one's a little bit overcosted. Magus of the Bridge is a reference to Bridge from Below, which Bridge from Below is a weird card because if one of your opponent's creatures leaves the battlefield, you gotta exile it. So Magus of the Bridge has the same drawback. So it's a little hard to keep the 3-mana 4/4 on the battlefield. When it's out though, if your non-creatures die, you get to make a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And then Magus of the Scroll is a reference to Curse Scroll. It's actually one of the cheapest Magnus. It's a 1-drop 1/1 that you pay 3, name a card, reveal a random card in your hand. If you reveal the named card, it deals 2 damage to a creature player, so it shocks something. So those are the consensus Ds. Then we have a bunch of consensus Cs, which I think a couple of Bs, individual Bs slipped in, but overall everyone had these as Cs, which are Magus of the Abyss, of the Jar, of the Disc, of the Mind, of the Mirror, and of the Tabernacle. So these cards, Magus of the Abyss actually references the card The Abyss. It is a 4-drop 4/3 human wizards that says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, you destroy target non-artifact creature that player controls of his or her choice, can't be regenerated. One of the big drawbacks of this is it itself is not an artifact creature, so it would potentially have to destroy itself on your upkeep if you didn't have anything else to destroy. Magus of the Disc, the Veneral's Disc, comes into play tapped. You can pay 1 and sacrifice it to destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. A little bit slow. Magus of the Jar is Memory Jar. You can sacrifice it to temporary wheel away everyone's hand. Everyone exiles their hand and then draws a new 7, but it goes away at the end of turn. Magus of the Mind is Mind's Desire. An infamous Storm card is 6 mana 4/5. You can pay 1 blue mana, sacrifice it, shelf your library, then exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of spells you cast this turn plus 1, and then you get to cast those cards without paying their mana cost. Magus of the Mirror is what is Magus of the Mirror?
Gas.
It's the one that exchanges life totals.
I forget what it's called.
Oh, that's a fill card. It's a fill card. It's a mirror. Oh, what is it? Reference mirror. What's that card?
The one
I want to say Image, but it's not Mirror Gallery. No.
No.
It's like a super old reserve list card that's
yeah.
ridiculously expensive at this point. But it's a 6 mana 4/2 that you sacrifice it and exchange life totals with target opponent. Only do that during your upkeep. And then Magus
Mirror
of the
Universe. Sorry,
Mirror Universe.
That is one.
That is it. Hundreds of dollars worth of jank there because it's so old and on the reserve list. And then last one, Magus of the Tabernacle, references Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale. It's a 4-drop 2/6 that says all creatures have at the beginning of your upkeep, sack this creature unless you pay 1. This one also has the drawback that it affects itself. So just having it on the battlefield, you have a 1 mana tax each turn, plus whatever other creatures you have. So these are the ones that we pretty much all agreed were pretty bad. We wanted to spend our time talking about the ones that we were kind of excited about, but does anyone have any quick notes on any of the bad quote-unquote Maguses before we move on to the ones that we ranked highly?
Yeah, Magus the Mirror is gas. That card is legitimately gas. I play that in my deck.
If you're playing a life switching deck, there's not many effects in Magic that can exchange life totals with your opponent. So if the goal of your deck is to exchange life totals, it's probably going to be in your deck, right? Like just by default, because there's not many options.
That and also like anything where I'm paying a lot of life. So like I played in my demons deck, where if I just like constantly hit myself, then I just go ahead and play that. It itself is not a demon, unfortunately, but other than that, like it is a very specific Magus, but like I do like it in the right archetypes where I'm paying a lot of life or life swap.
My only criticism is that it's so telegraphed. Like if you could activate it like at sorcery speed, like if it wasn't just stuck to your upkeep, if you could lower your life total and then immediately crack the Magus, I think you would get so much better. But because it's to your upkeep, you have to like lose life and then wait until your upkeep and then crack it. It's like
Yeah.
highly telegraphed. It's still effective, but like
Highly
funky.
telegraphed kind of describes Maguses as a whole, like compared to the spell versions of them.
Yeah.
Like, I think for me, a Magus of the Mind is a really clean example of kind of the issues that Maguses have when they don't work. Because if you read the card, Mind's Desire is 6 mana, and that's like one of the best Storm cards. People love this card and its sorcery speed. But Magus of the Mind, in all the Maguses, they really gotta not be summoning sick to do their thing. So when you have to play Magus of the Mind and then wait a turn to storm off, it's so awkward. Like, everyone sees it coming. They know, like, oh, well, what are you gonna do next turn? You're obviously gonna try to cast a lot of spells and storm off. So it's just so telegraphed. The other one I want to mention, and this one I just hate the design of, is Magus of the Bridge. Bridge from Below is busted because it works from your graveyard. That's the whole gimmick of Bridge from Below. If it's in your graveyard, it does all the exact same things that Magus of the Bridge. Magus of the Bridge, though, has to stay on the battlefield. So it is the one card out of all 21 of the Maguses that doesn't exactly replicate the way that its non-creature version works. So just like the design of that one kind of bothers me because all the other ones are just exactly the same as their non-creature counterparts.
It's not even well statted
It is.
Yeah.
compared to the other ones.
It's not. No.
I thought it was like kind of okay, but I gave it a C. Not I mean like filler, but yeah, that's probably a D material there. I don't.
It's a little
You'd have to
risky.
combo
It's
with
pretty
it.
bad.
You have
and
to
you
combo
gotta-
with it, but then you have to combo
Yeah.
with your opponent's creatures, and that's like,
I
You
mean,
kind of got to combo right away because if your opponent has a creature die, you have to exile it.
yeah, that's
So
the
if your
problem.
opponent's playing a sack deck and they can just like, oh, I sack my carrion feeder, it just like for free exiles your Magus. So you kind of got to be able to play it and immediately do your combo shenanigans before
Yeah.
any of your opponent's stuff dies.
it's only 3 mana, so
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
I
Bridge
could
from
see it
Below
being
is
useful.
3 mana, right? So
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, but it has to be. It doesn't. You'd never cast it, right? That's the problem. And
No,
Return Below
yeah.
exiles from your graveyard, and the fact that Magus just exiles itself from the board after you spend mana. It's so boring. Shout out to Magus of the Mind though. Like, it is very telegraphed, but that's probably the most fun of them all. And 1 mana activation is actually kind of cool if you want to storm off
Yeah.
before, because Mind's Desire has 6 mana. I mean,
Yeah.
this one is 6 mana on the turn before, so
This
it's
one?
not good. But just play like 3 spells, so just some cantrips, and then activate it, and it could be anything on top of that library.
I do like how, like, compared to Mind's Desire, you have to, like, be storming off, and then you have to have 6 mana to actually cast Mind's Desire after getting a high storm count.
That's
so this
true.
one, you can invest early, and then the next turn, you're saved up 5 mana, essentially, because you only have to spend 1 to activate it. So I could see in some situations in Storm, this might be interesting, but it is super telegraphed and everybody's going to be on high alert, so you just have to be mindful of that. I think mine the only one where it's like, this one's actually kind of decent. Magus of the Tabernacle. It's 5 mana, it's a 2/6, and it gives all creatures at the beginning of your upkeep sacrifice this creature unless you pay 1. Like, sure, you have to pay 1 for the creature itself, but assuming you're putting this in a deck like you would the normal Tabernacle, where you basically just have this one creature on the battlefield, this one seems okay. Like, I don't know, if you're a go wide deck, you're swearing at this Magus. Like, it's probably pretty effective.
Yeah, that
It
probably
blocks.
sums up a lot of the Magus problems as well. Some of them just ask for you to get killed because they're so telegraphed, and then you say, oh, next turn, I'm gonna do this messed up thing. With the Tabernacle, it's like, yeah, I mean, you really gotta hope they don't pay for it. And it's good that it's a 2/6 because everybody who's affected by this is trying to kill you, and everybody who's not affected by this doesn't care, and you're kind of affected by it yourself. I don't know, I get that it's kind of good, but you might be public enemy from that point on.
Look, I don't run this card, but I'm going to, and I'm going to run it in a Azorius deck because you could do Magus. The pass turn, everybody pays mana to keep their creatures around. And then bam, your turn, fade away. Boom. Done.
Got him. As if fade away needed to get even better somehow.
Yeah. Wow. It curves perfectly.
It's like combos with Dockside, combos with fade away. That's my new catchphrase.
What deck would you put it in though, Tomer? Would you just throw it in a generic like Azorius deck, or would you actually be kind of like building around it like your hidden commander? Or you just like a Crim deck where you're not playing that many creatures? You're kind of a Doggo deck, like something like that.
I think like a Crim deck where you don't play. Well, Crim actually plays a lot of like.
Crim started playing a lot more
stuff.
creatures. Yeah.
Also,
we can't meme that too hard.
Crim decks would not play this. It doesn't matter because like
it doesn't have flash.
It doesn't have flash.
No, there's one on our list that I will get to later. This is just nowhere near useful.
All right, fair enough.
I will say one thing I like about these cards is a lot of the originals are really expensive reserve list cards, like a Tabernacle, Abyss. Those are like hundreds or thousands of dollar cards. So it's kind of cool that these are 50-cent versions. They're not nearly as powerful, but you can kind of get these iconic effects into your deck without having to, spend thousands of dollars or proxy or whatever. So I think the designs are really neat. The nostalgia of the designs, even the bad ones that we're talking about as not being very playable, I still think they're cool that they exist. They're cool cards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to spend 45,000 or 4,500 for a Tabernacle.
Yeah.
Oh, that went up. Sorry, I thought that was still 1,500. Whoops.
Oh, still, that's chump change these days.
Yeah, my bad.
But yeah, I totally agree. Like, yeah, these are slightly worse than the originals, obviously, in most cases.
Slightly,
a little bit.
A lot.
Some variation, some variance on here. But it is nice that if you really want this effect, you can actually get it, or you can just proxy. Proxying is free as well. But yeah, But so those were the bad cards. But we have some cards that we consider pretty okay. So we're going to start things with that. With Magus the Balance, take it away, Crim.
Oh boy,
what's this all about?
So Magus the Balance is 2 mana. It's a 2/2 white human wizard, and it costs 4 and a white. Sack Magus the Balance. Each player chooses a number of lands they control equal number of lands controlled by the player who controls the fewest and sacrifices the rest. Players discard cards and sack creatures the same way. So it's balance on a body. This is actually pretty like passable. Like, I think you could definitely get there, right? I mean, it's fair enough to where I don't think anyone should be too upset. It's 5 mana. I mean, I guess, I don't know, sacking of what your creatures and the lands, whatever. The lands is probably all people care about. Otherwise, I don't know. I mean, this is gonna get you killed. I mean, like that's for sure. Like, you will get hit. I mean, there's no hidden balance that's in your hand. You are playing this on the board like every Magus. But you will. But it's funny if you get to pull it off.
I wonder, like, where would you play this? I think ranking wise, we got B's across the board. Except I gave it a C, and the reason I gave it a C, even though I love balance as a card, is I just don't know what deck I would put it in. Like, what deck could you actually make this beneficial? Because the challenge of these cards is breaking the symmetry. If you just play this willy-nilly, you're gonna hurt yourself as much as you hurt everyone else. What deck can break the symmetry and actually make this beneficial rather than just chaotically mess with the table?
I do think that you can play this in a human deck. Because you'll be able to you'll probably run the board, right? Because you'll go wide enough, so you don't care too much about the creatures, I guess. Or wait, actually, hold on. Who controls the fewest?
Yeah, you're just going to wrath yourself with this.
Yeah, so you would end up wrathing yourself potentially.
LD stacks.
Well, there's a wombo combo where you just cast Teferi's Protection, you float. No, you can't do that. Sorry, it's an activated. It's going to be phased down already.
You would have to give Teferi's Protection. Well, no, that would work, wouldn't it?
Do this in response, right? Do you activate this?
Yeah, couldn't you put the trigger on the stack and then Teferi's Protection to phase yourself out?
Yes,
so I think that combo would work.
In response to activating, you hold priority and you cast Teferi's Protection.
Yeah.
Wait, let me get this straight though. That would mean everybody sacrifices everything?
Yes.
That's disgusting.
I believe
Don't-
so.
No,
yes.
they just sacrifice lands and creatures.
Yeah,
All their
but
lands
all
and
the
all their
lands.
discard cards.
They don't get non-enchantments, not artifacts.
But still, if you lose all your lands and all your creatures, you're kind of in really rough shape.
You might have mana rocks though.
You might have a Sol
That's-
Ring or something. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
mana rocks are one of the ways that you build around cards like Balance traditionally. Like, if you can
Yeah,
have
right.
very few lands and, like, play a bunch of mana rocks, then you're not going to lose your mana when your opponents are theoretically losing their mana. So that's, like, one of the shenanigans. But that seems a little tougher to do when it costs 5 mana compared to 2 mana, like, original Balance.
Yeah. And also, original balance is banned in Commander, so this is like the
Oh.
closest we got.
Yeah, that's
And
why.
rightly
I mean,
so. Balance is
Balance is
so
2
busted.
mana.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
god, that card's
Balance
busted.
is 2
This
mana.
This is 2 up front, and then you need to wait until it loses summoning sickness or you give it haste. And you have to pay another 5.
You know what? I'm downvoting it to see.
This is very balanced.
Yeah,
I'm
actually
I'm pretty critical of the Commander ban list, but Balance is a card that 100% should be banned.
That's why I rated
Really?
it B. It's just such a powerful effect that I had to give it some credit. You could also say I rated it B for balance, but I feel like the effect is so brutal and there's nothing like this legal in Commander. So I gotta give it a B. If you really want to do this, I mean, the Teferi's protection thing is probably gonna win you the game if that's
Yeah.
worth a B, right? You could just say
That combo is
C, but
I'm keeping it as a B just for the memes. It could be very powerful, but it is very clunky in how you utilize it. Like, it's never going to be a really good way to end the game, but it'll be a funny way to do so.
I
Good way
guess
to
like
anger
at the
people,
end of
for
the
sure.
day, like if you try to think like, well, I could just do this for cheaper. I think that's almost the same
Yeah.
with every Magus, right? So
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just gonna null that argument right now.
Yeah.
Because like I mean, why don't you just play Armageddon if you want to blow up the lands? But
Yeah.
yeah, so you know what? For what it does, it's still pretty good. But I do agree that it is kind of hard to find a home for it.
Yeah.
That's my concern. You just run in a random deck and you probably hurt yourself just as much as you hurt the rest of the table.
So 2 C's and a B. We're going to. The sheet says B, so I'm just going to put it as B. In our interactive tier list slot, which is popping up in the video. If you want to see that, everybody was complaining that we don't have actual tier lists in the video. Well, guess what? It's there now. Also, quick note on our rankings, because I forgot to mention that at the beginning. We go from D to S plus now. D is basically don't run it unless your jank theme requires it. C is average. It's like a mediocre filler card, or maybe it's a budget choice if you have a certain restriction for deck building. B is only good in certain decks, so it could be good in a small percentage of decks or very strong in a particular archetype. We're actually redefining A. A is now really good overall, so it's good in a large percentage of decks. Like, most archetypes are going to benefit from this card. But also, if the card is like the best, like one of the best staples in a very specific archetype, then we're going to also say it's A as well. So it's either really good in a lot of decks, or it's exceptionally good, like one of the best cards you could ever run in a very specific archetype. We're going to put that at A now. And then S is going to be, it's literally just amazing on auto include in any deck. Any deck will benefit from it, and you basically will power down your deck by not running it. You make a conscious choice not to run it to lower down your thing. So that's our new ranking, by the way. But we'll move on to a blue Magus. So Phil, take it away.
Yeah.
What we got here?
blue one.
It's the Magus of the Bazaar.
I don't.
Ooh,
That's not on my list though. Wait.
What?
Oh, this. Oh, here.
Oh, we're just
Okay.
going down.
We're just going
tier
down.
list.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Magus of the Bazaar. It's Bazaar of Baghdad, right? The land. So the land doesn't do anything besides pretty much what this thing does. But let me see what it costs. It's 5 mana. That's a bit more than a land. 5 mana, 3/3. Tap and sacrifice it.
Whoa,
Oh wait,
No,
no,
that's-
it's the
Bazaar is,
wrong one.
2
No,
mana.
I clicked the wrong one. Sorry, I was bamboozled here.
Oh,
2 mana. That's way better. Still though, tap, draw 2 cards, then discard 3 cards. That's actually pretty good if you want cards in your graveyard, and it filters through your hand. I think I rated it B, right? Bazaar,
You gave it
yeah.
a B.
We
Seth
all
gave
have
it a
B.
C. Yeah.
So
So
if you,
Seth is more down on it.
It's a trap. It's a
one, by the
trap.
way.
But go ahead.
No, it's
But
not.
look,
I mean,
it's
it's just-
okay. So Merfolk Looter is draw 1, discard 1, right? And this is draw 2, discard 3. That's like 10 times.
Well,
That's like a double looter.
But it's
That's
like
not a looter,
anti-card
really.
advantage.
It's a
You're
looter
ending up
scooter.
with less cards in hand every time you activate it.
What if you're a reanimator deck and you want stuff in the graveyard?
Don't do it. I've tried this in Cube with actual Bazaar of Baghdad many times. I always get this
Yeah.
bright idea that, oh, this is gonna work in my deck. I'm reanimating things. That's great. And then I play it and it is, oh my god, it's so bad. I think you really have to be a deck that specifically cares about discarding cards. If you're like Torals, I think is like the Esper commander from Streets of New Capenna that like when you discard a card, it exiles it, then when it dies, you get the cards. If you're something like that, I can see an argument for this, but I think playing it in like Reanimator is actually just a trap and not going to work out the way that you want it to.
I played it in my Sidisi deck, my Sultai Reanimator deck. It was pretty good. I loved it. Yeah, and then I love this in my Anala, my Grixis Wizards deck. So like, I mean, before I broke that deck apart because it's too broken. But yeah, like this just being a wizard is nice. It comes down at a good cost. It's only 2 mana, and it's not like I have to blow it up to like keep using it. So I really like it. I've enjoyed this in my Wizards deck quite a bit. I mean, granted that Wizards love having stuff in the graveyard because I can use it again. There's lots of value to be had with Magus of the Bazaar. But it is a very specific kind of good.
Maybe I'm underrating it. Maybe I should. Maybe I'll have to try it again.
I gotta give you that it is pretty brutal card disadvantage. Like you really have to get a lot of value out of your graveyard. Maybe if it's just like not even madness, but really like my cards have flashback or something, because yeah, you can't really activate this with 1 card in hand, for example. I mean, you can, but then you got to make sure that you want cards in your graveyard. Like if
you can't even do it with 2 cards in hand, really, because then you're gonna. I mean, are you gonna end up? Well, I guess you'd end up with
You
what,
can
1
end up
card
with
left
one.
over.
Oh, that's brutal as well.
That's
Yeah,
so
but
brutal.
that's. I mean, Bazaar of Baghdad is a card,
Wait.
right? And it's not bad.
Yeah.
If you have this with 2 cards, you're down to 0 cards.
With 2,
Wait, you draw 2, you go up to 4,
Yeah,
then
you draw
discard
2,
3.
discard 3.
Oh
So you
yeah,
go,
you're right.
you go up
Yeah,
to-
you're right.
yeah.
But still, like, oh boy, I don't. What
I-
deck do you play it in?
I actually ran it in my Thraximunder zombie decks like a decade ago, and I also kind of found it a little bit lackluster. Like I kind of wanted a Merfolk Looter over this because it does. I think the main issue with it is that if you want to play a grindier game and you want to like have incremental card advantage and like grind out the opponents with like multiple spells, then this is going to work against you. But if you want to just get as many cards into your graveyard as efficiently as possible, this card is a 2 mana. Its activation costs no mana. It's like a good. It's good at what it's doing. I think it's actually good at what it's doing. But you have to have like it's very particular to the style of deck that you want it in. Like if I want to play like if I want to play like a 15 turn game or something like that, I don't like this too much, and I prefer a Merfolk Looter. If that makes sense. Like, losing a card each time you activate kind of sucks.
Yeah, your
So
commander.
again, like it is a specific good, right?
Yeah.
Like you do want it in a very specific deck.
Yeah.
But in that deck, it does well. Like I like the decks that I liked it in. I really liked it.
What's the is it commander that draws you cards when you discard for the first time each turn?
Ooh,
I think it's a
Real?
Real.
Oh yeah,
A Real, yeah.
Like in this one, it's got to be one of the craziest value engines.
Yeah. And
that
it
game
also
is
curves
good in-
perfectly because it's 2
Yeah.
into 3.
Oh,
Yep.
yes.
I can see playing it there. I think like traditionally in 60 card formats, you play Bazaar in like Dredge. So if you're in Dredge, all it does not care about its hand. All it cares about is getting as many cards in the graveyard as possible. So if you're playing a deck that's like that in Commander somehow, probably not literal Dredge because I don't think I've ever seen a Dredge Commander deck. But if you're playing a deck where you really don't care about your hand and you just care about getting cards in the graveyard as quickly as possible, then it's probably in the conversation.
Yeah. I agree. It's something that I forgot about, and I definitely want to keep my eyes on this card on the radar. But with 3 Bs and 1 C, we can solidly put Magus of the Bazaar in the B range. Boop. There we go. All right. And then I guess I'll go with Magus of the Candelabra, which is based on Candelabra of Tanos, I believe. It's an artifact. And this one does the exact same thing. It's a 1 green, 1/2 human wizard, and it has X, tap it, untap X target lands. The Candelabra, I believe, is like 1 mana artifact and does the exact same thing. So this one has Summoning Sickness, but it is a green creature, so there might be a little bit additional synergies there, creature synergies in green. And it's very effective when you have ways of generating more than 1 mana per land. Like if you have a Nissa who shakes the world and your forests are tapping for 2 mana, or two or 3, I don't remember how much she does. I think it's just double.
It's 2.
Yeah, just double.
I remember.
So if you have like that, you can like tap your mana for, if you have 4 forests, you can tap them for 8 mana, spend 4 of that mana, untap them with the Magus, and then make an additional 8. So you're up an additional 4 mana that way. That's pretty solid. You can do the same thing if you have like islands and high tide and stuff like that, or you have like Mirari's Wake or something like that.
Gaia's Cradle is also pretty good.
It's also very good with like bounce lands and stuff. If you have like any particular land that taps for a lot of mana, like Nykthos, Gaia's Cradle, Cabal Coffers or something like that, Magus, the stonks goes up for that. And we all gave it. Everybody B's except for Crim C.
I mean,
is this because it's a creature Crim?
No.
It's a green creature. Is it because it's green Crim?
No. Okay, well, actually, because it's green, it's actually held back because I feel like there's better ways to go about this. But I know I said I'd make that argument, but like, wow, this card is still just aggressively okay.
I feel like
it's just okay.
Yeah.
Right? Like, welcome to the Magus' latest.
Yeah. You need a specific. I feel like, to Grim's point, if you're trying to untap Nykthos or something, I think there's just better ways of doing that. I think where this shines is like kind of the cards you said, like Nissa that doubles the mana of all your lands, Mirari's Wake, Zendikar Resurgent, Nyx Bloom Ancient, anything that's like making your lands tap for 2 or 3 mana, and you want to be able to untap all of your lands. This does get the job done pretty well in that very narrow context. But I think that's the only place I would consider playing this. Like, I got to be a deck that's kind of built around doubling my mana and or making my lands tap for twice as much mana. Then I think this is good. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything, right? Like, if your lands are only tapping for 1 mana, it literally does nothing. Like, you tap all your lands and you untap all your lands, and that's you're at the same point that you started.
Yeah, like in that exact situation, yeah, sure, that card is great. You have Gaia's Cradle, things like that. But I think the effect overall is just okay. Otherwise, right? Because it's,
doesn't do anything by itself. That's for sure. Like, it literally just hangs out until you have you have something that taps for more than 1 mana.
I was looking at an EDH rack. The one deck where this is a staple that I always forget about is Nykthos of the Old Ways, which is a commander that literally doubles your mana, but you can't cast non-creature spells. So in that deck, this is like, I think, really perfect. That's the exact kind of deck that you'd be looking for a card like
that,
this.
And you play what's the tree from Theros Beyond Death?
Nyx Bloom Ancient.
Yeah. There you go. Then you like triple your mana. So there's good uses in that deck.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably cute in Ashaya too, because Ashaya turns all your creatures into lands, so then you can untap your creatures. So there might be some shenanigans there.
It's probably the same deck, right? Like,
I feel like this is just like we're building a fill deck right now. Like, we put in Ashaya, we
cast a Blatant Thievery.
What's the one where like creatures die, they become forests? We throw that in there. Like, it's good times. Phil, you're a fan of this, I assume, right?
I died to that. Like, I've seen it pop off. That's why I had to give it a B. Obviously, it just works with lands that tap for more than 1 mana, but you're not gonna put it in a deck without them. So once you play it and it's at the right place, it will do a lot of work. And it's a 1-drop. That is probably the best part about it. It's like you don't lose out on much if your commander draws cards.
yeah, it's nice cost.
Okay. Well, so we got 3 Bs. We got 1 C. It's an easy B-ish for us. We'll throw it on the tier list. Boop. All right. We'll move on. Seth, here's a card that I know you're high on. Take it away.
This actually is one of my like top 2 or 3 Maguses, and I think one of the ones that I've played the most, and that is Magus of the Coffers, which is literally Cabal Coffers, except it's on a 5 mana 4/4 human wizard body. So you pay 2 mana and tap it, and you make a black mana for each swamp you control. So any of the shenanigans that you see with Cabal Coffers, you play in Urborg, so all your lands are swamps, or playing in a mono black deck, Magus of the Coffers does the same thing. It's one of those black ram spells that doesn't do anything in the early game, but in the late game can create an incredible amount of mana. And I really like those spells in black. I like mana doublers and that style of effect. And while this isn't technically a mana doubler in the traditional sense, like a Mirari's Wake, a lot of times it plays the same way. So this is one of the Maguses that I probably play the most. For me, if I'm playing mono black, I'm considering this card. I don't play it 100% of the time, but I'm at least considering it. And if I'm playing some sort of land deck with Urborg, where I'm tutoring up a lot of lands and can easily find Urborg, then it might be in the conversation there too. So ranking wise, I gave it an A, Krim gave it an A, Tomer gave it a B, and then Phil coming in at the bottom with a C. So I'm curious, what is the issue with this card? We know that Cabal Coffers is one of the best black cards in Commander. Is it just that it's 5 mana and it has to not be summoning stick?
Yeah.
Like, is it the traditional Magus issues that keep
It's
it from
the
being an
Magus
A
issue,
for?
right?
Yeah.
So like again, like that's just one of those things, right? Where it's like I think grading the Maguses, they're all kind of actually bad. Most of them are kind of bad, right?
No.
They're kind.
I don't
most
think
of
this
them
one's
are-
bad.
No, I don't think this one's bad, but like it is a lot of mana, right? To then hope that it lives and then tap. But I voted this at an A, so I like this one. Like, but I'm willing to admit that I am grading this against the other Maguses and things like that. And like the effect is nice, right? You want the effect. Almost any black deck can play Urborg, so why not have a second copy?
No, I mean, would you play a 5 mana 4/4 that taps for 4 mana?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, hopefully it's tapping for like 10 mana or something.
Sure.
Right.
In the late game, yeah, but I have never seen this card before, and then when I rated these, I thought like, well, if you play it out, it's probably like, maybe it taps for 5, which is also good, but it feels so... Maybe I'm a little spoiled because I play a lot of green, but that seems like such a clunky way to...
Honest magic, Phil. Some other colors have
Coffers-
to work for their mana.
Yeah, the land coffers is on a land, and you also have that Urborg every time, so it taps itself as well. I don't know, it seems a little clunky. Maybe I would have to give it a try. But also, if I play mono black, it's usually sacrificed base. I don't know. Oh, I don't know.
I mean,
I might have.
It's
to try
nice that it's nice that it stacks with Coffers. Like, you can have both of them going at the same time and making lots of mana. So it's definitely worse than Coffers, but that's true of literally every Magus, I think, is worse than its original version. But I think it's good enough. Like, even a powered down creature Coffers, for me, is still good enough to play in mono black. Outside of mono black, that's when you can't really make it an S, I don't think, just because it really is limited to mono black decks for the most part.
I mean, if you would play Coffers, I think there's a discussion to play this, right? Like, there's always a discussion to play this. That's why I like it. I think it's pretty strong of the Maguses. And yeah, like, you know, people oftentimes blow up your Coffers instead of your Urborg. So, which is kind of wild. So, yeah, I will gladly let them do that if I can, you know, or if someone else has an Urborg, and in place of you, it's nice. I don't know. I mean, again, this is just good anywhere you would play a Coffers.
Yeah. I have one criticism, though, where I see a lot of people, I'm not naming names, obviously, that will run, like, an Urborg and then, like, no swamps. And they will pray to the gods to find that Urborg so that their Coffers will work. And then also pray to the gods that nobody destroys that said Urborg. I feel like that's kind of like, I remember there was a criticism I got a while back when I was saying like I really like Chromatic Lantern because it makes me not have to thinky about my lands tapping. And then Richard's like, well, if either your land base should be consistent without Chromatic Lantern, and then your Chromatic Lantern does nothing, or you're all in on Chromatic Lantern and then you're vulnerable to getting blown out. And I think that kind of applies to the Urborg Coffers combo. I think like if you're just like a deck that has like some amount of swamps, but like 10 or something, and then you're just trying to find Urborg and then trying to find Coffers, like assembling a 2-card combo in your deck and then hoping nobody messes with it. I mean, sure, it's gonna work, and I know people have a little bit of a taboo against blowing up lands, but like, I don't think that should work. I don't think like if I have a generous grift, I'm blowing up your Urborg. You know, like I'm getting rid of that thing. And then sometimes you just have a Coffers and it doesn't tap for anything because your Urborg is somewhere in the deck and you can't find it.
Yeah, but your Coffers, once Urborg's blown up, can't hit for 4. Just saying.
Yeah,
That's true. The beatdowns that make this
is a
5-mana 4/4, and I am swinging.
I mean, I know you play aggro Zelvalor, so I want to put it against past you to start beating down with the 4/4s.
I have definitely been in that position with Coffers, where it just isn't making mana, or you top deck it and you don't have enough swamps. But I forget about those games really quickly. Those bad games where it doesn't work, whatever. I was going to die anyway. But those games where Coffers like makes 30 mana and you do something insane, it totally makes it worth those bad games for me.
That's fair.
This deck has 100% win rate if you ignore the losses.
Yeah.
So
it is sweet when it comes together.
Yeah.
I will say I have a Toshiro deck that's mono black, and it's focused on Cabal Coffers effects because I have X spells to finish the game, Exsanguinate and Torment of Hellfire. And I run Cabal Coffers, I run Cabal Stronghold because I'm running like 24 swamps and stuff. I'm running Magus of the Coffers, I'm running Caged Sun. I would say this is probably the weakest of the bunch. Like, if you compare it to Caged Sun, I like Caged Sun a little bit more because it yields more mana. It costs 1 more mana because it's a 6-drop artifact, but it stays on the board longer. This one's still very good though, and I also like Nirkana Revenant a little bit more too. It's a black creature 6-drop, and it just says all your swamps tap for double. And it's a 4/4, and it's a shade, so you can spend all that black mana into itself. I think those are a little bit better. Once between like 5 and 6 mana, it's like whatever. But yet, despite that, at no point would I consider cutting Cabal Coffers from my mono black deck. Like, just being able to, if you're in a deck that is focused on ramping out swamps and then doubling that mana and then using that to cast giant spells, then you want all of these effects. And a slightly worse Cabal Coffers is still a very good effect that's highly desirable in that deck. So I think Coffers is very, very good if you have like a black ramp deck. Or even a 2-color deck, like Seth says. Like if you're a 2-color deck and you can like, if you're especially like Golgari and you have like a lot of ways of finding the Urborg, I'm gonna jam this. This seems fun. And then if your Urborg gets defeated or it's destroyed, you got a 4/4. Yeah, you equip Dowsing Dagger on
time
that
to go
boy,
aggro.
You get to town. It's a beefy boy. Well, so the ratings were all over the place, but the group average is a B. So we're gonna throw it in the B section and move on to. Oh, we go down quite a while, right?
Yeah.
Or wait, no, we have some decisions over here. Should we talk about Magus the Library? What's going on there?
Oh, yeah.
I think we might have skipped one too.
I like, actually.
I mean, I thought we had Magus of the Future.
Yeah, Magus of the Futures.
Oh yeah, let's talk about
technically
Magus
next
of the
on the
Future,
list, but
Krim.
Hi.
Magus of the Future. Oh.
Okay. Well, Magus of the Future, card I actually also play. 2 and triple blue. It's a human wizard. Play at the top of your library revealed, and then you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library, and it's a 2/3. So it's a future sight, and it is a card I love so much from Onslaught. Like this card is kind of on a body. I just like it because it has wizards, so that's why I have it rated at B, just because I played it in a wizard deck. And why not play it and have it synergize with all my other wizards while getting the benefits of a future sight. Although I'm starting to realize future sight effects are starting to get a lot cheaper and a lot easier to a lot more resilient than a 2/3 Magus. But again, whatever, the Magus problem continues. However, it is a nice It's just a solid wizard creature, and it's not nice in any mono blue deck. I like it in like, because like Future Sight is just good enough to play, I think, in a mono blue deck. It is heavy on the blue though, so you really do need the blue.
I mean, upside with Nykthos having all those blue mana symbols.
Yeah.
I think that this. Oh, go ahead, Tomer. Sorry.
I just wanted to say the rating. B's from me and Krim, and C's from Phil and Seth.
Yeah, so my thinking on this card is it's cool as a backup version of Future Sight, especially if you're trying to do Future Sight combos. If you're trying to like, I'm infinitely Sensei's Divining topping is probably the most common combo. But if you're trying to combo around an effect like this, I think I would play this just as a backup version of Future Sight to support my combo. But playing it for value, outside of Wizards where you get the tribal synergy, I wonder if it's necessary anymore, just because it seems like Wizards has really been hitting the button on these like play off the top of your deck effects. It seems like every set we're getting a new one. So just recently we got like one with the multiverse, we got Reality Chip not that long ago, on top of actual Future Sight, and I think I'm forgetting about probably another one that does something similar that was printed not too long ago. So there's so many of these effects now. I wonder, do you need to go all the way down to Magus of the Future unless you're trying to combo?
All the way down. All the way down. Not that far down.
You got me, Seth. I put it down to C.
Oh, I wasn't trying to ruin your love of Magus of the Future. Now I feel a little bad.
I really like the art. It's very nostalgic to me. I look at it, I'm like, ooh, there's like the freaky staircase in the background. It's all like weird and time spiral-y to me. But when you mentioned the Reality Chip, I think that's probably the best comparison, where Reality Chip is a Future Sight, but it's a little bit better because you the mana value, the mana cost for it is a little bit chopped up. So you can play it as a 2-drop, and then you can reconfigure, you can equip it, you can attach it to a creature you control for 3 mana. And not only is that cheaper, like to start getting that Future Sight effect, once it's attached, you can play lands and cast spells on the top of your library, just like the Magus. But it also kind of protects itself from removal, like a board wipe. Like if somebody wipes the board, then the creature it's attached to dies, but then the Reality Chip, since it was not a creature during that time, it just stays on the battlefield as a creature. So it's kind of, it's just a jellyfish. That's kind of neat. I don't know. Does that mean like we just don't need, like if we don't really want multiples of these in your deck, right? Like if you have 2 Future Sights on the battlefield, it does nothing for you.
Right.
So yeah, maybe we just have too many Future Sights now, and this is not as good anymore.
And then if you get a lot of mana, one with the multiverse is just so flashy and splashy because you get 1 free spell each turn. So it's like Omniscience. It's like Omniscience mixed with a Future Sight. So I don't know. For me, this is a card that like 10 years ago, I think I played it more because there just weren't as many options. But now it's hard for me to imagine putting it in a deck at this point just because I'll play Reality Chip or whatever instead.
I am perpetually in 2013, so yeah, that makes sense.
It's a perfect Crim card.
It is a wizard. Like if you're in Wizard Tribal, like,
or humans, you get the human synergies, or if you're just really all in on trying to combo. If you're like, I want as many Future Sights as possible because I'm trying to go infinite with them, then you might as well play as many as you can, including this one, because it's not a bad card. It's just like a little bit behind some of the power crap newer versions, maybe.
Well. With the change in ranks, we got triple C and 1B.
Down to a C.
We're putting that Magus of the Future down in the C.
Still committed.
Range. The B is noted. It's C+. All right, we'll move on to another one that has a lot of controversy, a lot of different choices here. Phil, what's next for us? Certain library.
Yeah, that's Magus of the Library. It's a 2 mana. First of all, it's a nod to Library of Alexandria. 2 mana and has the same text box as Library. At 1 mana if you tap it, and tap, draw a card, play this ability only if you have exactly 7 cards in your hand. We have seen this one go off on Commander Clash, haven't we? I feel like we saw this, and after I drew like 2 or 3 cards, we said like, wait, is this like actually good? And I might actually try to play it next week. Now that I saw this, and I built a deck today, and I thought this might actually not be too bad. Like if you in Commander, you draw a card on your first turn. So if you play a mana dog on turn 2, you are pretty likely to draw a card with this. And then you just over the course of the game, sometimes you might snag a card out of it. Like, I get that it's not as good as the library itself, but at the end of the day, it is a mana dog, which is good in the early game, and then it is maybe card. I don't know. I like it. I want to try it out and see if it draws you 2 cards, it's good, right?
Oh yeah, it doesn't take much.
Well, you gave it a B. Seth gave it an A, and then C from me and Krem.
A's.
We're more down on it.
This is another one that I like to play. This is one of those cards that I play it and it always overperforms. Yeah. And then I forget about it and I don't put it in a deck for the next 6 months. And then I remember it and play it again. I'm like, wow, this card's really good. And then I forget about it for 6 months. But I mean, a 2-mana mana dork, I know it's not exciting, especially costing double green, but it's not bad. It's not like a 2-mana mana dork is horrible. And then you get the upside, like Phil said, you don't gotta draw that many cards with it for it to be worth it. If you draw 1 card and have a 2-mana mana dork, that's fine. And if you ever get 2 or 3 cards and you still have a mana dork, then that's a lot of value for 2 mana. So I feel like this is a bit of a sleeper card that people should, including myself, I guess, should actually remember and play more often in their decks. No? People get caught up on the needing to have 7 cards in hand.
I'm not even talking about that.
If you play it right, it's not actually that hard to have 7 cards in your hand at least a couple times.
First off, we know mono green decks can outdraw any deck now. So the point is that fair. I'm not concerned about the back half anymore. It is still just at its very base a green at a colorless.
That's true.
At a colorless.
Good.
Come on.
So if the issue is green doesn't need it anymore because it has so much good card draw, that's fair. I will give you that. Maybe your green decks just draw so many cards now that you don't need to play a slightly bad mana dork for the chance of drawing a couple cards. That's legitimate criticism.
Its effect is like bad, mid versions of everything that green already does well. So it already has so many cheap 1-drop mana dorks, and on top of that, unless it's Raphaelos or something like that, then okay, green hit me with the Raphaelos, but
I think it's more for me. I feel I'm worried because I haven't played this in God knows how long, but I do remember there was one game, I think it was Jolriel or something, that it actually popped off. I think in the situations where you happen to have 7 cards in hand, you have this on the battlefield, this card is gas. It's drawing you an extra card each turn, and then if you don't need that extra card, you can tap it for mana. For 2 mana, for a 2-drop, that's amazing. However, I just don't think there's going to be that many situations where this is on the board and you have exactly 7 cards in hand. And then even worse, where now you have to play. You have to either choose to play optimally and start playing cards in your hand, or suboptimally to make sure you stay in that 7 card range. And I feel like that might become a trap to a lot of people, where you're like, oh, I need to maximize the card draw out of this card, and now I'm not going to play spells that I should be playing. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like if you play this turn 2 and you didn't ramp or anything else, and then it's good, I guess. But if you draw this a turn late or something, then you're like, oh, I have 5 cards in hand. What am I going to do? Not cast spells for 2 more turns, or try to draw some cards somehow to activate? I don't know.
It is aggressively average, right? It is so average. Yeah. That's why it's
It's not a good mana rock. It's not a good mana dork. A Llanowar Elf is superior, right? It's a 1-drop and it taps for green. A Birds of Paradise taps for any color. It's a 1-drop. For 2 mana, if you want a mana dork that's 2 mana, it's got to do something special. And this one
draw a card every turn.
That is special. But how many times are you going? It's so awkward how you draw the card.
For someone who loves drawing cards and loves making mana, you always hate on cards that do both. It's like Hedron Archive, the Mana Dork version. We're having the same conversation.
No, this is like Infernal Idol. Yes, Hedron Archive's garbage, Infernal Idol's garbage, and this card's garbage too. It's just, if it's bad at both things, is it a good card? Not always.
I will say that your point of people playing suboptimally to make this work, that is, I think, actually a good one. And I think maybe I'm a little bit biased because I've drafted Cube so many times, and Library of Alexandria is a card that once you play with a while, you kind of get used to the pacing of like how to always have 7 cards in hand, so you're drawing an extra card with it every turn. But if you're not used to that, I could see this going very wrong. Like, you're right, you don't want to be like, oh, I'm not going to play my impactful thing this turn because I need one more card to start drawing cards. The way I'm looking at it, though, is like, you play it, you draw a couple cards, and then it's a Mana Dork, and that's a win. But maybe that's just not enough in 2023. Okay, maybe that's 2015 thinking.
What if your commander costs 3 mana, so you play this, and next turn you don't need to worry about casting a card for your hand because your commander costs 3 mana, and you drew a card on your first turn? I feel like there's a lot of, like, more situations than you would expect where you play the. Of course, all of these situations involve playing it on turn 2. I am aware of this, but
not great late.
I want to try this one out. Like, this one is the one from the list, and actually there were 2 from this list that I will try. The other one is a bit more scary, though. This one just sits on the board, and maybe people will say like, "Ooh, this is better than I thought," and if not, at least you're not a threat, which is. Like, some of these weaknesses are brutal.
It's definitely not super threatening, which I think might be good. And maybe it's good that, like, you know, instead of developing your board, you're just incrementally drawing cards because you'll draw less threat off you. But I think it really depends on the deck. Like, I think that's a very correct assessment. Is like, if you have a 3-drop commander that you know you're going to be casting on turn 3 very consistently, and you don't have a lot of turn 1 ramp, but you really should be having turn 1 ramp here in green. What are you doing? But like, there's things involved, and also Joriel it's a fantastic deck because her entire shtick is being cantrip.deck because you want to make your Panthers at instant speed. So being able to draw a second card on your main phase or whatever, that's really good. It makes Panther, and you're always going to be sticking in that 7-card range, even if you're casting spells as you should be doing. So there is a home for it. I don't know if it's generically good, but yeah, I think it is something worth attention. But yeah, that one is an interesting one. I actually was like pretty negative on that card. And now I'm walking away. I'm thinking maybe it's B-ish.
Just try it.
It's so
try
average.
it. It'll win you over.
It's so average.
It's so
extra
average.
colorless. It's double green and it's extra colorless. You know what? I'm keeping at C, but regardless, B, A, and double C, the sheets, the mighty Excel sheet is telling me that's a B. So into the B range it goes, BB. And then we will move on. Do we talk about the mirror? Krim, you're high on the mirror, so I think you want... no, we talked about that.
We talked to the mirror already.
Yeah, we talked about the mirror
already.
We'll move on to, like, arguably one of the the Maguses we think is the best of the best.
Yeah!
And that is... I don't know who he's talking about, but I know, Krim, you're really excited about it. So we'll just say it's on you, I think.
Okay. Magus of the Moat. I love me some Magus of the Moat. It's 2 white. Human wizard, 0/3, creatures without flying can't attack. This is why would I play Magus of the Tabernacle when I could just make your creatures not hit me at all? Like, this is the card, right? I play this in so many decks. I played it in my OGTI deck. I played it in my Super Friends deck. It's so awesome. Having a Moat effect on a body, it's also fair. People can't be too upset because, like, hey, if you have removal or a board wipe, actually people are upset about things that even if it's a creature, but it doesn't matter. The point is, it's so easy. It doesn't hit you. It's a 0/3. It literally cannot kill you. It cannot kill you, and it's just solid at shutting down a board. And it's also great in your Flyers deck too. So I can see me playing this. Like, this is arguably one of the best moats. Maguses for me because I feel like I could play this in a good variety of decks that I love, at least.
But it,
I mean, if you don't plan on
hits
attacking,
you
it's good in any
too.
deck, right? Like, or it's good in any like pillow 40 deck.
Yeah.
And then it's like ridiculously strong in flying decks, I think.
Yeah.
That's why I gave it an A. Krim, you gave it an S, so you're like super high on this. And then B is from Seth and Phil, so like we're all pretty up on the Moat.
Yeah,
Magus.
I think for me, it's really good in decks that specifically care about having a bunch of flyers. That's where I'm mostly
Super
interested in it. And we keep it. Also, yeah, if you're just not playing creatures and don't care about attacking and you're winning with non-creatures, then it's also pretty good in those situations. But for me, it's like, and we have a lot of these Alkangis, Enias, Asperia. There's a lot of these Flying Matters commanders that really incentivize you to have exclusively or very close to exclusively flyers as your only creatures. And those decks, this card's great. Like, it's not hurting you at all. Your creatures are still doing their thing, but most people aren't going to be able to attack you with their creatures. On the other hand, I mean, you can't just run it in most decks, right? Because you're going to keep yourself from being able to attack.
Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't this be an S for Phil? Phil hates attacking.
Yeah, I just thought about this.
true.
It should be a.
Perfect.
Yeah, I just don't play Moat, and I kind of feel about the same about the Magus version. It would be the best. Like, it would be a card I really want to play, but I feel like it's just unfun to just Moat. I like propaganda effects a lot, actually. But I feel like Moat and also Magus of the Moat is a little...
Where is Phil's line?
I don't know where the line is. Yeah, it really does.
I
I
want
didn't
to
even think
I
about
don't
that.
like this, but I want to triple copy Portal to Phyrexian.
Yeah,
Just
so
destroy all
when you
your
just
creatures
mentioned
and
like,
kill
oh,
you.
it stops yourself from attacking, I thought like, oh yeah, you could attack yourself. I didn't even think about this. I never plan on attacking, but this just feels like it's a little not too much fun. It is
One of the nice things though is it's a creature, so it dies. So you can always use the like, you should have played removal. Like, literal Moat is much harder to kill, and I think it is kind of a feel bad. But this one, like, if you can't deal with a 0/3, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? If this is the card that keeps you from being able to attack the whole game.
But Draneth's Magistrate.
Yeah,
I keep saying that every single time.
Hold
I
on, but
slam down
Draneth-
turn 2 Draneth Magistrate.
Jonathan Magistrate is aggro, okay? It has 1 power.
That's true.
This one gets this one
This
can't
is not-
attack.
yeah, this
Yeah.
one
It literally
could
can't
have all
attack.
the power. It doesn't matter actually.
Yeah. Unless you equip it.
This is the
With-
most
with-
fair magic. I will say, what was I gonna say? No, I forgot what I was gonna. Oh yeah, I was going to say.
This card is
I
gas.
think this card is going to. The major drawback of this card is it is going to, make it a target more so than a propaganda effect. Propaganda effect just is like, all right, you can attack, it's fine, but you just have to pay extra for me. And it's a good way to kind of go under the radar where people are like, all right, I don't want to pay the 2, I'll go somewhere else. This one is like, no, you can't attack. And I think that, what's it called? Mentally is going to aggravate people a little bit more. And I think justifiably, just because there's a lot of like very beneficial attack triggers and combat triggers these days. Like if you're an equipment deck, for example, or if you're like Ishin. Like imagine you're an Ishin player and somebody drops the Moat on the battlefield. Like you're not having a good day. You're having a bad time. No. You have to find some removal for it. So you will draw more aggro than a propaganda. But at the same time, I think it's even more powerful than a propaganda. Because yeah, you're denying attack triggers. You're denying combat triggers. So, yeah, they can't hit anybody, and that's great.
It can stop just combat for like a turn or 2, which could be all the time you need, right? 2 turns means that it's farewell time. You know what I'm saying? so like I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? So
I will say, compared to propaganda, I think one of the downsides is, with propaganda, your opponents are often attacking each other, so they're actually like making each other die. With this, no one can attack anyone unless you have creatures with flying, so you're just kind of like making the entire game slow down. Like, it's not progressing in any meaningful way. So I feel like propaganda is probably better as far as like, just because you want your opponents to be taking damage. I don't want to protect Phil and Krim from everyone's attacks. I just want to protect myself. Like, please attack each other.
Magus of the Moat, if you're playing that kind of card, I don't think I care if you're all like hitting each other, right? Because if I'm an aggro deck that cares about hitting you, that means I'm already playing flyers, or I've got a very elusive way of getting around this, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think it matters at that point, right? So like, it's a good effect. It is a super pillow for it. It is exactly what you want to do if you want to stall. I personally don't think it's a problem stalling, but that's as long as you can close eventually.
I personally don't run it that often outside of flying decks. I think it is like an all-star in flyers, though. Like,
Yeah.
It's an all-star
Oof.
in general.
I think this card is just really strong.
Yeah.
I'm usually afraid of the aggro it will get on me, but also sometimes I just want to troll the table.
Wait,
Yeah, I know. Like if you're just like I want to be the problem, I put down the moat and I just like laugh about it. Like that's good times for me. I don't know. I like it. I'm turning into Crim. I'm afraid of
Slowly morphing into Crim.
my hair is turning blue.
I already told y'all though. Tomer's like one bad day away from being a chaos player.
Yeah.
and he's
Oh,
not
God.
that far.
God. Oh no, I'm gonna actually downgrade this to D. Don't play. I'll never become you. I'll never become you.
Sure,
All
Tomer.
Well, Double B S A. We can confidently put this as our very first A of the Maguses. Yeah, good job, Magus of the Moat. Oh, we're gonna move on to a card that is also highly regarded amongst our group. Is it Phil now? I don't even know
I think
anymore.
it's Phil.
Yeah.
I don't think I've
I
heard
don't know.
Phil.
It's
in a
Phil.
while.
Phil, tell us about your favorite card.
is it the wait again? Is it the
Magus of the Moon?
Magus of the
Oh
Moon. your
yes,
favorite.
that's the only
Modern
A I have.
All-Star.
Yeah, that's one. Actually, the only Magus that sees play in any Eternal format, right? It's 3 mana, just like a Blood Moon. Non-basic lands are mountains. 2/2 human wizards.
So
Rats.
beautiful.
Very simple.
Very fun.
One line of text.
4 words for the card text. Oh my god, so beautiful, so clean.
Yeah, it is very brutal, and I played against it, and I was very hosed by it, but I kind of thought it was funny. I don't know why. It feels like I like Blood Moon more than then it makes sense. I just think it's funny if you get hosed by it.
Let me
I
get
don't
this
know.
straight, Phil. Blood Moon effect, fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
Moat
Moat
effect,
is a
not fine, right? All right.
moat is a trench too far for Phil. He will not swim across that moat, but he will summon a blood moon.
I think
never
that's because
played
Moat
Blood
isn't
Moon or
efficient
Magus
enough.
of the Moon.
The best pillow fort effect is the one where your opponent never gets to actually cast the spell, right? So I see Phil. Okay, all right. I respect.
I just love how trolling Blood Moon is. Like Magus of the Moat is like, it's not even trolling anymore. It just forbids you from doing one important part of Magic. And yeah, that's kind of true for Blood Moon as well. I don't know. Blood Moon is funny. I don't know.
Casting spells.
is infinitely
Phil.
worse.
I didn't realize Phil was such a Blood Moon fan.
I never play it, but I can't help but laugh if I get hosted by it. And you can still cast your mana rocks. Maybe.
Yeah.
Mana this way.
You still cast your lightning bolts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Play more.
Hopefully
Draw
you
more
have a
colorless
lightning
spells.
bolt in your deck to get rid of the moat. Or
Draw
sorry,
more
to the
colorless
moon.
spells. Come on.
Shouldn't Toma not be bothered by it and just say, hey, play more basics? That's the answer.
That's
for
true.
I think this card's hilarious.
Tomer is Blood
But,
Moon proof.
I mean, my 5-color decks are gonna still die to this,
yeah.
but it's funny.
It is
I mean,
somehow
it's got
funny.
This is the fair version, though, right? We all gave it A's. Like, it's A's across the board. But compared to Blood Moon, I think it's the fair version. Like, if you want to try to Blood Moon people, but you maybe want to be slightly less hated, I think this is the card to play. Just because it dies to creature removal. Like, it's easier for most decks to remove. So, I don't know, though. Does A mean that we're all saying people should be playing this in most decks? Like, is that...
I mean, yeah, why not?
Is that what
But-
we're telling our audience?
Yeah.
Okay, in all seriousness, it's actually probably the least fair version, right? Because let's say that normally, right, you would have like Force of whatever, the green one. You could blow up an enchantment
Big-
or an artifact. if your mana base is cut off, right? Like then it's like, okay, well, I could use my free spells to blow up enchantment artifact. I don't have a free creature spell, probably. Beseiju is like usually a reason why this is good in older formats, right? Because you can use Beseiju to get around, just to blow up a Blood Moon, but you can't do that with the Magus of the Moon. So this is to get around Beseiju. So I actually think this card might be harder to remove.
I think this card, just run more basics. How about that?
I mean, there's that.
That's how I teach you all to play more basics. That's actually what people keep telling me. They're like, Tomer, you gotta hit them with the Blood Moons.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
Honestly, I could
have
be
a meta.
mad at you if you do this. That would be kind of funny.
I wouldn't. I've only done it in Werewolf Tribal, and people got upset at me for that. I'm like, it was on flavor.
Yeah.
It was flavorful.
Excuses. Tomer just wanted to be mean that week and use it as an excuse.
I remember that week.
Really, though, is this card socially acceptable in Commander? Like,
why not?
Is there a difference between blowing up lands and just making all your lands not work? Like, does the community view it differently?
I mean,
like, would you be
difference?
comfortable just showing up with a deck like this to a Magic Fest or whatever?
What's the difference between casting having a creature removed and one countered off the stack, right? The illusion that you got to do something. So at least you have the illusion of having lands.
Yeah,
they're red.
No, I have two play groups back at home, and one of them just had Blood Moon in I think two of his decks, and it was fine. We gave him playful ribs about it, but it was fine. And then I played against another group recently here in Paris, and he mindslavered me, and it was great.
Ooh,
interesting.
I don't know. Some of these salty cards I feel are more internet problems as opposed to real playgroup
in
problems.
person, it's mostly just funny, right? If somebody mindslavers you in person, I would just sit there and laugh. It's
it was hilarious. And I was playing my attraction deck, so they had to roll for attractions. I had to explain what.
Really, they punished themselves for having to play through all the attractions.
It was great. He rolled a 6. My creatures had horsemanship, and I think there was an extra attack step. It was fantastic. It was actually benefiting me, honestly. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll start playing Blood Moon. I've always avoided Blood Moon. It's literally one of my favorite cards, but I was under the impression that it was just too mean to play in Commander. But maybe that's not true, and I should be Blood Mooning people.
I mean,
let us know if you
I don't
can
want
comment
people to get
on
upset,
this.
but
23 episodes of Commander Clash where we just lose the Blood Moon.
Just play more basics for it. Come on. Easy game. Yeah, this is Quad A's. Let us know in the comment section what do you think about Magus of the Moon. If you would run it at your table, what would be the reaction? Is it? Yeah, I assume most people would say no. This is not. This is not cool. But
don't take our A's to mean you should jam in every deck and lose power.
Same
as a
with the
result.
Moat, by the way. Just you're not gonna make friends with this.
You should play Moat.
No.
You got a Moat laying around, or are you talking about Magus the Moat?
Magus of the Moon dies to Ugin, so I don't know. That's fine.
Yeah.
Right? Just run more Ugins.
Ugin is
Eugene is the truth. Eugene is the truth.
He's the hero we needed, not the one we deserved. All right, we'll move on to a newish green one. This is Magus of the Order. It's a 4 mana, 2 and double green, just like the spell it's mimicking, which is Natural Order. 2 and double green, human wizard, 3/3. You can pay green, tap it, and sacrifice Magus of the Order and another green creature to search your library for a green creature card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So, Natural Order usually is used to sacrifice, a 1/1 Sapperling, and then boom, you tutor up Craterhoof Behemoth. GG, I win. This one does kind of the same thing, except you have to put it on the board, and then you have to pay 1 more green, and you have to tap it and you haste. So it's a little bit different. But Double C's, C from me and Krim, and then B's from Seth and Phil. What do we all think about this one? Is this something you would play, jam in like a Craterhoof deck?
I might have rated it too highly at B. Like, it just has such a flashing light of like, if I untap, you're gonna die next turn, like attached to its head. It's just like it's telling you Craterhoof would suspend 1. So there's there's no way that anyone's gonna let this card live. Like, I guess if it's powerful, getting the Craterhoof is really strong. It's probably gonna win you the game, but it's so strong. I can't imagine that the table's going to let you or it live once you play this, unless you have a way to give it haste or something to use it right away. So I think it's good, but I almost think it's too obvious that it's going to win the game next turn for most decks to be able to get away with playing it. Like, I would think, oh, play it in Elves or whatever. Play it in the same decks you play Natural Order in. But does it actually work out in practice? Does anyone have any experience actually playing this card and having it work out?
I had it in a Holiday Cube deck, and it won me almost every game I had it, because I had the Crater Hoof and I had Elves. Yeah, this suffers from the biggest, hey, I win the game if you don't remove this problem, I think. But it's still, I would rate it at A if it wasn't so telegraphed. It's just such an insane, I still can't believe that Natural Order isn't banned. Not that I want it banned, but considering the cards on the ban list, I would think that one of the commander, council, whatever, would just say, no, this is too easy. Especially since it's such a old card. So I didn't know the Magus of the Order existed, and I'm not sure if I can play it because, yeah, as Seth mentioned, the table is gonna get super scared about it and probably try to kill you. And also, it might, yeah, they can just remove this, but usually if you do something like this, the aftermath of you being the villain just holds on a little longer than the card is on the battlefield. So you might just die just for playing this. But if you can pull it off, man, that's a Crater Hoof or Progenitors, whatever you want to tutor up with it.
By those metrics, though, I think that means it should be graded higher.
Yeah, that's why I have it at B,
right,
and I might almost put it at A.
Like, because the table will die if you untap with this, right? Like, there's just it's not an if unless, like, it's that simple. Have an answer or die.
Usually.
Well, okay. What if you just have like a Magus and a creature on the battlefield?
Yeah,
You're
you
not
need a
going to die
board
as a
too.
Crater.
You do need a board. Yeah,
you need to
But
grab.
still.
You have to grab like a Bane of Progress, which is also very good, or what? Like I don't know.
you could just grab a Coma or something. There's so many good cards you can grab with this. And
like
then
this.
this doesn't exile itself, so you can get it back. Ooh my.
The only problem is for me is like, again, it's very telegraphed.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I still like the moats and I have to sit around. So. But this one will have the drawback of like in 1v1, what your opponents are gonna hit you or they have removal,
going up to a B.
and that's it, and then they die.
Yeah.
This one is like the 3 other people at the table will be when you pass the turn, you'll be like, all right, we can either try to kill him or we can try to removal. Does anybody have removal? And 3 people pool their resources to remove it, or 3 people pool their resources to punch you in the face and kill you before you get to untap.
That sounds like a good time.
Which at least the moat says it stops option B, right? Like option B is like, try attacking me, you fool.
Moat does something right away. Yeah,
Another win for the moat.
This just paints the target on your head. Although I
does
don't know,
win the
Natural
game.
Order is busted.
Yeah,
Win the game.
I'm bumping up to a B just because of how efficient that is. If it becomes I untap and I will probably do something pretty darn good, or it gets removed.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Like, you force them on the spot. It's not a game of like who's bluffing. They have to.
You do need a green creature, but I'll bump it up to B too because like if we're comparing that to
good.
Magus of the Coffers, is like if I untap with this, I'll make lots of mana. But that doesn't win you the game by itself. It's just you have lots of mana now. You can spend it on something big and scary. This one is like if you let me untap and I have another green creature, I am going to make you seriously consider tapping out or dying. So, yeah, I think that's a B. I think that's solid.
Pretty solid B, yeah.
I literally have never seen this card played in Commander, though.
Yes.
I wonder why no one plays it.
Do people
play
know it
Natural
exists?
Order?
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
know
I've
it
seen people
existed.
play
That's
Natural
it.
Order. Natural Order is ridiculous, but
Yeah, natural
maybe
order
people
feels
just
just
don't know about
unfair,
it.
though.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, next time I play elves or some sort of crater hoof deck,
Yeah.
I'll throw it in C because it seems strong enough to be worth it to me.
Yeah, you need to have like the Llanowar elves, or you need to have green tokens or something
Yeah.
that you can easily, reliably sacrifice to it. But
Basically, you got to be a natural order deck. If you're playing a deck that would be playing natural order, maybe it's worth throwing this in as a second copy because natural order is probably going to be one of the strongest cards in your deck if you're a natural order deck.
I think so.
all right, I guess I got talked up to running Magus of the Order. Who would have thought? See, some of these Maguses are
Yeah, we're
they're
learning.
something.
We're learning things as we
They're
go
learning.
along.
All right, Magus of the Order, quad bees, the easiest bee in the podcast. Boom. All right, we're going to move on. We have 3 left, and this one, Zach, what is this one?
What is it? I'm actually wondering that myself because I think our
Magus
sheets are in
of the
different
Vineyard.
order. Magus of the Vineyard. Oh my god. Yes. Let me real quick do that. Okay. Magus of the. I just bumped it down. By the way, no
Me
one can
too,
actually
me
see that. So
Oh.
Magus of the Vineyard. Magus of the Vineyard is a 1 mana green Magus. It's a 1/1 human
Oops,
wizard.
Sorry, my finger slipped.
Says at the beginning of each player's pre-combat main phase, add 2 green mana to that player's mana pool. So this is a reference to, I don't even know. What is this a reference to?
Ella Domri's Vineyard, I think. or something like that?
Domri's Vineyard. Okay, so I think it's an enchantment
Don't
version
quote
of
me
this
on that.
effect.
Olive
So this
Garden.
Oh, it is.
This-
Yes, it is.
this card, it was played not that long ago on Commander Clash, I believe by Phil, and I'm pretty sure that Phil got super wrecked by the mana that everyone else got to make from playing this card, and it like horribly backfired. So maybe my take on this card, which is currently a C, along with Phil and Tomer bumped it all the way down to D, Crimson a B. Maybe it's a little recency bias, and that one game of it going really horribly is tainting my view of this card. But I think this is essentially group hug only. The fact that it's giving everyone the mana, and even more problematically, you're going to be the last person to benefit from it because you play it during your main phase, and this triggers at the start of your pre-combat main phase. So you're going to start making mana your next turn cycle when everyone else is going to make a total of 6 mana altogether before it gets back around to you. I think unless you really want to be doing the group hug thing, you just can't. You straight up can't play it. So group hug all-star, or at least playable. Otherwise, stone cold unplayable in my opinion.
I mean, am I? That's weird. I'm the only one that has it rated.
Where do you
Prim
play
is
it,
secretly a
Grim?
green
What's your-
player. That's why let's see which ones he's giving S's to. He gave it. Oh wait, he didn't. It was Moat's a white card. But
Come
Never
on now,
mind.
Tomer,
I'm-
calm down.
look,
calm
I'm
down.
sick.
Where
Right? I'm still
where would you play
recovering.
it, Grim? I'm curious.
I mean, I've seen this played, and it's been pretty solid every time. Yeah, group hug, it's pretty solid there.
Okay.
Mono green, like a ramp deck, right? Like ramp decks don't like hate this at all because usually whatever they're ramping out, it's gonna be probably a little bit better than whatever you're doing. So, like, I thoroughly have seen this just take over the games, to the where like it needs to. It's like not offensive enough to where people don't think that it should be removed, right? So they let it sit around, and then usually that's when Eldrazi and Spaghetti Monsters start happening. And then like I don't want that. So I've seen this just kind of go off in just group friends decks. So I was like, it's kind of good. It's kind of good. Or group friends, group hug, and ramp decks.
my okay. So on the ramp deck thing, you're green. Do you really need to play a card that's giving your opponent 6 mana a turn and you 2 mana a turn? Can't you just play a green card that gives you 2 mana a turn and doesn't give your opponents that mana? So why would you want to give the rest of the table that much mana each turn? I get the group hug thing, but the ramp deck thing just blows my mind why you would want to play this
This is a super mana dork.
Ugh.
for your opponents.
Grim just wants
Yeah.
other
They get
people
a
to
mana
play
dork, too.
this.
Llanowar elves all around.
But like it's good. Yeah, obviously your opponents get it too. But like, holy cow!
But-
like sometimes
Ugh.
it is still double green, so they're not like cheating out like a cryptic command or something like that, and or whatever. Like they are getting a ramp on it, but like I don't know. It seems
Gross.
fine.
I actually
Counter offer, gross.
I thought about playing it in Lonis because I guess you can always spend mana there. It's not good. if you play it on turn 1, it's
What deck
gonna
did you play
backfire
it
so
in?
hard. I don't know.
What
I
deck did
remember
you-
playing it somewhere, and I think it was removed before I could do something with it. Like everybody had a crazy turn, and then
And then, yeah,
I don't know
it was
if that
something like
actually was
that.
what happened, but I remember that it was even worse than I expected. If you can flash it, no, not even if you can flash. Don't play this unless actually, if you're my opponent, please play this.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean, I'm
please do.
It has a lot of power attached to it, and that includes what your opponents can do to you. Yeah. So you just kind of have to gauge the situation. Obviously, if I'm like, oh, I have nothing to do with this, I'm not just gonna give this to you for free, right? Like you got to play it at the right slots. But like legitimately, when you find the slot to play it and like pull the trigger on it, it's pretty okay. I'm not saying it's like again like the best thing I've ever seen in my life. It's just okay.
Like sometimes, if you can give something to your opponent, you can make it political. Say like, "Oh, I give you this, and then I get this." But with this, it's like, "Yeah, I played this. Now you get the benefit for free. Do whatever you want."
Everybody gets it.
Yeah, and
if you're like dedicated group, I hate group hugs. So like that's like good for you if you like group hugs, and this is a very efficient way of giving your opponents more mana. But like if you're thinking of 4-player pod, your opponents are netting total amongst themselves 2 each, 6 mana, and you're netting 2 out of this, and you're getting that mana before everybody else who are like behind in tempo. Or after everybody else, you're behind in tempo. So you play this on turn 1. Your opponents will either play a 3-drop or a 4-drop. Either is terrible for you. And then you get to play on your turn 2 a 4-drop or something like that. No. Pass.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
So I mean,
I
Of
probably
all
should have
people, I
given
didn't know
it a B,
Grim would be
honestly.
the one most in love with the green.
I'm not in,
card.
I'm not
so
in love with
surprised.
it.
The Bazaar
It's just,
world.
it's just okay. Like like all right, it's pretty solid in some decks, I guess.
All right.
I don't love the card.
A B, double C, and a D. We're gonna throw this into the C range with a C plus. So in the top part of the C.
yeah, actually, I bump it down to D. Now that I had such it's so much impact for such low mana cost, but it's just not. Don't.
I mean,
it's just
it's high
unfortunate
impact
that
for your
most of the
opponents.
impact is for your opponents. Yes,
Yeah.
your opponents.
It's great. It does a lot.
It really helps your opponents win much quicker.
All right, 2 more. Oh, this one is my baby. Who is it on? It is Crim, I believe.
Crim.
Okay.
Yes.
Magus of the Wheel. 2 in a
Oh,
red.
this is your baby too.
Human Wizard. A 3/3. Pay 2. Sack it. Each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. Good old Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, I got the. So Phil has this at a B. Seth's got an A. I've got an S, and Tomer's got an A. If Magus of the Moat isn't the best Magus, then Magus of the Wheel has to be the best. Because like come on now. Like let's be real here. This card is dang good. Seth, you know you love this card.
I do love this card.
I genuinely think this even has a broader this can go into even more decks, right? Because who doesn't just want a wheel? I play this in humans. I play this in a wheel deck, a control deck, anything at all. This is nice, right? In a chaos deck, it goes in everything. Because who doesn't want a Wheel of Fortune?
I never
if you
played
can't-
a wheel so far, and I will. I don't know
You have to try
why.
it, Phil. It's awesome.
I
feeling,
like it
the
if
power.
other people play it, but I haven't played it so far. Maybe I should. That's why I
It's
gave it
great.
a B. Sure.
I agree with Crim, by the way. This is my top 2 as well.
Alongside Magus of the Moat.
The Moat.
I mean, this is
Yes.
Magus
Really?
of the Moat is the truth. I don't know why y'all are memeing on that card. It's the truth.
Try
agree
attacking
with
me,
you.
bro.
I agree with you on this being maybe the number 1 overall Magus, in my opinion. Magus of the Moat, we already talked about that. I think this is the best budget wheel, right? Like Wheel of Fortune is the best version. The problem is it costs hundreds of dollars, so most people can't play it or they got to proxy it. If you go to budget friendly wheels, it's really this and Wheel of Misfortune that stand out to me as being the best, the best wheels in red. So I think even though It's a little expensive compared to actual Wheel of Fortune. It's a 3 for 3. The stats are fine. A lot of times people don't mind a wheel depending on the game state. So not everyone is going to be incentivized to kill it before you get to untap with it. It's easy to give it haste in red if that's something you want to do. Red is one of the best colors for giving things haste, so you can use it right away without waiting. It's just a really good card. Probably the best Magus overall, I would say.
My hot take is this is better than Wheel of Fortune.
Wow, that's so.
Wait,
That's
explain.
This is the only Magus that I'd be like, this one is actually better than the OG.
Wait, are you counting price? Like, are you docking Wheel because of its cost?
No.
Okay.
I don't run Wheel of Fortune, even if
Why is
on
this?
Moto.
Why is this better though?
So the main reason why is I actually don't love wheels in most decks because it's this candle. It's what's it called? The Vineyard. It's the Vineyard problem where you got 7 new cards. Your opponents get 7 new cards too though, and there's 3 of them and 1 of you. So they're netting more resources and you're netting them more resources. This is doing the same thing. However, it has multiple advantages. The most notable one, though, is that you can activate this at instant speed. So, unlike Wheel of Fortune and Windfall and all the derivatives, they're all sorcery speed. This one, you can actually wait until the end step before your turn and wheel it. And at the very least, in that regard, you got access to the cards before your opponents do, or you can do it in response to your opponents drawing a billion cards or doing something or disrupting a combo and stuff like that. The fact that you can do it at instant speed is really, really good to me. And the other thing that I really like about it is the fact that it's a 3-drop creature. So, it's easily, like if you're in Rakdos, it's easily recurable. It's a sacrifice effect, so it could work well in Aristocrats and stuff like that. If you're in white, you have Sun Titan and Savin's Reclamation. There's a lot more ways to recur it, or recur a 3-drop creature, I think, than there are ways of getting a sorcery. So I like it there as well. And I personally run it in my Perfros deck because I'm super card hungry in that deck. I want all the wheels because I'm just dumping out my hand and then recasting everything. And Magus of the Wheels are my favorites because I can, again, activate at instant speed and refill before my turn and then go bam, just re-unload on everything.
These are some great points, yeah.
Yeah.
The instant speed part's a good point. I don't know if you sold me on it being better than literal Wheel of Fortune, but it does have some upsides. You were definitely right about that.
Maybe I should.
Also, again, the least offensive of these, right? Like, I mean, and power,
You
obviously.
though.
Yeah, it's the least offensive. It when it sits on the board, like people kind of like it, and it doesn't just outright suck, of course, right? Like it's good at what it does, and it just isn't offensive enough to where someone has to remove it. Some people will fight for it. So yeah.
There's no more Hull Breacher, so what's the worst that can happen? You can Narsa.
Narsa, yeah. It is a little sad off the top. Like, one of the ways I probably played Wheels the most, and I don't play Wheels as much as I used to because we've gotten more card advantage options in Red, but it's kind of like dump your hand and then wheel to refuel, and you're hoping to break the symmetry a little bit because theoretically your opponents didn't dump their hand, so you're drawing 6 new cards and your opponents are only drawing 1 or 2 new cards. In one of the ways you want to be able to play a wheel in that scenario is just like top deck it when you have 1 card in hand and get a new hand that you can use right away. The one downside I would say of Magus of the wheel is you can't really do that. Like, you do have that suspend 1 aspect. That's what I think keeps it a little bit behind the actual wheel, and for me it's kind of in the Wheel of Misfortune tier is like the next wheel up behind actual Wheel of Fortune. But I still think it's a very powerful effect, and as you mentioned, there are a bunch of upsides being a creature, being able to activate at instant speed and tribal synergies and whatnot. So should probably play this even more, I guess. Although this might be a whole podcast of its own, but are wheels even good anymore unless you're playing a wheel deck? I feel like in the last few years I went from being super high on wheels to almost not playing wheels at all in 3 years time.
I think, yeah, that would be an interesting debate. I'm pretty low on wheels these days, but I will run into my Perfros deck and wheel decks. Obviously, wheel decks are very good. Like, if you can consistently dump your hand way faster than the rest of the table for whatever reason, then it's really good. But otherwise, giving your opponents 21 cards and you just 7 is not a great rate, I think. But that'd be an interesting topic on wheels.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that in the future.
All right. Magus of the wheel. So the great debate has been settled on the wheel. 2 A's, 1 B, 1 S. We're putting that in the A slot, baby. Boom.
Yes.
That's another A right there. The Maguses they're getting the points in.
I'm gonna let y'all know
quarter.
before the end for the last Magus. Y'all gotta pick at least a best Magus, right? Because nobody voted for the best Magus. I'm the only one that has S's.
I mean, none of these. Wait, were we supposed to pick an S? Did I miss something?
I mean,
that we needed to have an
there
S?
is a ranking for the best Magus at
It
S.
says the best Magus.
Oh, I see. I totally missed that. Well, if we're giving our number one overall Magus an S, despite our old criteria, it would be Magus of the wheel. I think that would be my number one
Did I
overall.
change things at the end? The best. Oh, I did. Oops. All right. Yeah. Cool. Fine. I'm putting this in S2.
Yeah, I think.
Magus
I
of
think-
the wheel.
Wow.
I mean, but we
my
do have
S.
one more to go. Right?
Krim
We
is
have
the
one more
guy
to
that
go.
reads. Hold on. Hello.
What world are we living in? Krim loves green cards and reads the instructions.
All right. Magus of the wheel. I believe that's an S. If it's 3 S's and a B, that's like an S.
Nah.
I don't know what's happening with one of them. They're not filled in. The Excel sheet is failing us. But we're going to the last one. Phil, take it away. What is the final Magus?
That would be Magus of the Will. 3 mana, 3/3. And it's a human wizard. Who would have guessed? 3 mana and tap it, exile Magus of the Will. Until end of turn, you may play lands and cast spells from your graveyard. If a card would be put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, exile that card instead. So just like Yawgmoth's Will. Pretty good card. Do we play this? I think I've given it a B, probably, thinking about the card. Let me see the rating. I think we all give it a B, yeah. So Yawgmoth's is actually insane, but it's kind of insane in Vintage where you can cast Black Lotuses and stuff. I don't know.
Obviously, this
think the
needs a
effect is-
graveyard.
Yeah, it needs a graveyard,
Right,
and it
it
needs
does.
insane amounts of mana in Commander. Like in the formats where you see Yawg will go off, there's so much Storm and free stuff going on. I don't know. I would play. It feels like too clunky. It's also 6 mana and an untapped step for Yawg will. That is nah.
I don't know. I mean, I think this card's pretty decent, dude.
It is fine. I think you'll activate it at some point and get some value out of it, but not the
some value. Hold on. I don't know, man. I think this is like Magus to
to
the
pay-
order, right? Like
wait, you have
I
to
can't
pay-
let you untap with this.
But you have to pay 3 mana, and then you need to pay that. You need to play something impactful from your graveyard. If you play 3 mana and then play a Brainstorm and a Cultivate from your graveyard, I wouldn't be scared about this. And if you pay 3 mana and 10 mana to get an Ulamog and then something, if you spend 20 mana, yeah, sure, you can play Villainous Wealth for 20 mana and it will also be insane. So, I don't know. It doesn't scale as well as it does in the formats where you usually see Yawg Will. In CEDH, you just play the original Will, I suppose. So, I don't know. It seems a bit clunky. And 3 mana to cast it, 3 mana to activate. If it would be free to activate, then I'd say, yes, please. But
Would you let me untap with this? Would you let me if I played this?
Sure.
Would you let me untap with this?
if you
In the
can
color
spend
black.
20 mana next turn to cast your graveyard, I'd be scared of you anyways if you have 20 mana next turn. Sure, it's good then. But I think it's like, yeah, you worked for that. If you pay 3 and then pay 3 to activate it, go have some fun. Go get some value. It's fine.
It's a Yawg's Will with suspend, right? You still got to pay the 3 and got to keep the thing. Yeah, I get that. But like, if I get to cast this, I think you can probably win. This has to be killed, right?
It probably depends on your deck. Like, I guess it depends. Like, if you're playing Storm or something, then this is like must kill. There's no way you can let it survive. If you're just playing a generic black deck, though, like, I don't know. Like, the reason I'm skeptical and actually bumped this down to a C from a B is the more I think about it, I don't see Yogg-Will in Commander. And Yogg-Will is just, like, strictly better in so many ways.
Expensive.
But, like, we don't play it on Commander Clash where it's free. Like, there's no budget concerns, and it's not like I ever see any of us going off with it on Commander Clash. So the fact that, like,
I don't want to.
I don't know. Like, if we're not making Yogg-Will be good, why
I'm
is
not joking.
this
I don't
version
want to
good?
click.
I would legit run Yogg-Will in most black decks, but I usually bring budget decks, and the card is like, well, it's on the reserve. It's like $200.
If
I
you
thought
run
it'd
this,
be more than that.
Do you run this one then, Tomer? As a replacement, or is it so powered
No.
down that you don't run this one?
So I always like debate whether or not I want to put in my Toshiro deck because there's like a lot of instant sorceries or even lands. Like if somebody blows up my Coffers, it seems good. Like black can't really get back a lot of permanents. They can get back creatures very easily, but they can't get back enchantments, planeswalkers, instant sorceries sometimes. But like it's very, very rare. So like this is just a catch-all. Like you crack it, you're going to for sure get a fetch land back or your Cabal Coffers or whatever land in your graveyard, and then you get to cast a couple spells. But like you need a lot of mana. Like that's like the Storm Conundrum, right? Like so why does Storm work? It's because you have like Lotuses and you have Dark Rituals and you have all these things and you want to cast them multiple times. I think this is like if this was just free to activate, I would 100% like. Oh my god. But it's scary too. Like that's the problem is this is like Krim said is like, will you let me untap with it? I think it's scary, and for a lot of decks you won't be able to get that value out of it as much as you would hope.
I think it has the coolest art from all the Maguses. Like it looks super gritty, kind of anime vibey. It looks pretty cool. I think that. If that's a reason you want to play it. It's also probably pretty fun. I think if you play it on turn 3 and you're not getting pressured, unless somebody at the table thinks the same as Cringe's thought, like, oh, this guy's gonna win next turn, now we gotta kill him, because you're probably not as scary as Crim thinks. Especially since they can see your graveyard, right? They can see what you do unless
like
you cast a bunch of things
is,
and then you activate it.
This is a card that's going to sit on the board. It's going to draw the graveyard hate right then and there, or the removal, or I untap with it. And
sure, do that.
You're talking about in the color that has Coffers, right? Like Coffers itself.
Sure,
so getting a ton of mana isn't hard in mono. We've seen this tons of times. Crypt Gas.
You mean Magus of the
things
Coffer.
like that. Magus of the Coffer. Yeah. So me finding a way to get a ton of mana isn't the hardest thing in mono black.
Sure, that's actually a good
That's
point.
true.
If you double your mana multiple times and have a full graveyard and have the Magus and it's you can tap it, have fun.
You need the mana and you need the spells that you want to recast or in your graveyard, in your hand or in your graveyard. It's just a bigger ask than like Magus of the Order, where it's just like you just need the order and you need a creature and that's it. I don't know.
I wonder if it should be considered more just for the flexibility. Just like, yes, if you're trying to storm, that's sweet, but I don't know. Look at Underworld Breach or Eternal Witness, these cards in other colors that just like get a thing back from the graveyard and have the upside of like, oh, in the right situation, I can kind of go off with it. If I got a ton of mana, maybe it deserves to be considered more because of that. Although I really think it's awkward that it's 3 to activate. If you look at other similar ones, like the Mind's Desire one, Magus of the Mind, it has 6 up front, but it's only 1 to activate. Or even Magus of the Wheel, it's only 2 to activate. So you get this like little benefit if you do manage to untap with it. With Magus of the Wheel, you don't get any benefit at all. It's still like, it's like you're paying for Yogg-Will twice, essentially. And you have to avoid the downside of it, like needing to survive and not being summoning 6. So I might try to run it a little more often and just see if it's worth it as like a bad Black Eternal Witness. Just to test it out. But I don't know. I'm a little skeptical that it's that strong.
The most common case is you get a land and you get to cast 1 or 2 spells, and that's already kind of good. But
yeah. And then you get the upside that, oh, maybe I got multiple mana doublers in a big graveyard and I just happen to like have this huge turn. So I mean, in the mid game, getting back a land and a couple of spells isn't bad. That's like probably worth.
I think in the late game, if you draw this, it is a very, very good card. In the mid game, it's also a good card. Early game, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, I'm going to test out
I've never
Magus a
seen
little
it played,
more.
actually. Yeah, you can.
I'm
try
going to test
me.
it out too. Next time I play a black deck, just jam it in there and just see what happens. But for now, I'm going to stick it a C, I think.
All right. Well, a C and triple B means we can easily put the Magus of the Will in the B category overall. And that is going to wrap up
Wait.
What?
We have to see what Phil chooses for his best Magus, because we don't know what
okay.
Phil chooses.
So
You got to pick one.
if I'm
pick
gonna
one.
pick one, I
Best
guess
Magus.
it's Magus of the Order, even though I rated it at B, just because I'm gonna get killed for it. But I play so many cards that get me killed. I guess Magus,
It's the Phil way.
Magus of the Order is my favorite Magus. Still not, let's say the best Magus. Giving it an S though, I don't know. It is pretty scary.
What about the moon?
I'm not gonna play this.
An
It just deserves an A, but yeah, no, I'm not gonna play Blood Moon or Magus of the Moon. Just like Moat, Humility, all these cards that are like, if I'm not doing it for like in private, maybe not for content, somebody's gotta play Magic.
Somebody does play
You
Magic.
Yeah,
can't be
sure.
dirty plays in public. You have to keep that
Yeah.
on the wraps in the privacy of your own home. Those moats. All right. Okay, so we all picked our S's. And yeah, that's our tier list, everybody. We covered 21 Maguses. Hopefully Wizards of the Coast prints more of these in the future. If you want a Magus, a certain one, as a callback to a non-creature card, let us know what cool Maguses they should be printing in the
Magus
future.
of the Thievery,
I feel like
please.
Oh, God.
Magus of the Counterbalance.
Magus of the
dear.
Protection.
Magus of the Panharmonicon, but they did that, and it was Elish Norn,
yep.
and now apparently it's getting banned. Thanks, Sheldon.
Is it getting
That's a full other podcast topic for us anyway. But yeah, that's it, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. As always, like and subscribe if you like this sort of stuff. We'll be back next week with who knows what. We have some ideas already on the bucket list. And yeah, that's it. Hope you all enjoyed. And until next time, friends. See ya.